Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Amit Harari, and coming up in today's newscast, nearly all the votes counted after fifth serial elections in Israel, and it seems that we have a clear winner. Meantime, leaders and citizens around the globe react to Israel's likely new government. And finally, Israeli startups submit some 250 innovative climate solutions for their chance at a $2 million prize. Nearly all the votes now counted, and former Prime Minister Netanyahu's victory all but assured. ILTV's Aaron Porras with the report.
As of this reading, nearly 95% of the vote, including many of the double ballot votes cast by diplomats abroad, soldiers, and prisoners, have been counted. And former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party, along with his right-wing allies, receiving a clear majority. So clear, in fact, that the Likud alone reportedly receiving over 1 million votes, nearly a quarter of the total ballots cast, and the right-wing bloc likely reaching a comfortable majority of 65 seats total in the Knesset. All in all, it appears that the Likud will garner 32 seats, followed by Prime Minister Lapid's Yesh Atid at 24. Then the far-right Religious Zionism Party will take 14, the center-left National Unity with 12, the Haredi Shas and UTJ getting 11 and 8 respectively, the secular right-wing Israel Beitenu and Arab parties Ram and Hadash Tal all getting 5, and finally the center-left Labour Party at the bottom with 4. Meantime, the left-wing Meretz party, as well as the Arab Balad party, falling further and further from the electoral threshold, and they're unlikely to make it into the next Knesset at all. Prime Minister Yair Lapid then formally conceding, telling his ministers to prepare for an orderly and responsible transfer of power. And now all that's left to do is for President Herzog to receive the party's recommendations for Prime Minister, which will undoubtedly end with Netanyahu, who will then have 28 days to negotiate ministries and form a solidified coalition to present for confirmation at the new 25th Knesset.
In Washington, U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price refused to comment directly on the results of the Knesset vote, but tells reporters he hopes the new government will maintain respect for all. Price was asked about the right-wing composition of the next Israeli government and whether the Biden administration will cooperate with firebrand Itamar Ben-Gvir.
It's too early to speculate. We're just not going to speculate on a government that hasn't emerged yet. This is a process that will play out within Israel. We will see as the government emerges over the coming days. But regardless, we have a close and enduring relationship with Israel. It's a relationship, as I said before, that's based on those shared interests and those shared values, and certainly that will continue.
Yeah, but
Religious Zionism's firebrand Knesset member Itamar Ben-Gvir played the role of kingmaker in Israeli Knesset elections. Benjamin Netanyahu must rely on Ben-Gvir's support, and many are anxiously waiting to see what position he will have in the next government and asking what will it mean for Israel. ILTV's Steve Leibovich reports.
With Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir's led Religious Zionism Party gaining 14 seats, they are primed for a central role in shaping a new government led by Netanyahu. Ben-Gvir's rise can largely be attributed to the issue of security.
The success of the radical right-wing politician Itamar Ben-Gvir is a reflection of the fact that Israelis felt that the issue of safety and security is on the top of the agenda. There were events of lynching perpetrated by Israeli Arab citizens and a broad sentiment among the population that the government was not tough enough in dealing with those domestic challenges.
Tuesday's election marks a dramatic transformation for Ben-Gvir, who was convicted in 2007 of racist incitement against Arabs and support for Kach, a group that's on the Israeli and U.S. terror blacklists. Ben-Gvir's radicalism had once locked him out of Israeli politics, but his success at the ballot box reflects a hawkish swing among the electorate. Also, his own image has undergone a makeover, prompting Netanyahu to say he can have him in his government. The yellow trappings of Kach were banished from Itamar Ben-Gvir's campaign, replaced by the national colors, blue and white.
ואני מבטיח גם לאלה שלא הצביעו לי במפלגות רחוקות שאנשים אחים אנחנו
In government, Ben-Gvir says he wants to be Minister of Internal Security, a move which could potentially strain ties with Israeli Arabs. His presence could also test Israel's bedrock ties with the United States and the American Jewish community, which tends to be more left-leaning.
Well, Netanyahu has been in power for off and on for a generation. So we don't expect any significant change in security policy, in the way Mr. Netanyahu will guide and oversee the conduct of the defense establishment. Nevertheless, the role of Ben-Gvir in a Netanyahu government will mean that politician that is probably the most able provocateur in Israeli public life will now have a ministerial position.
Ben-Gvir insists that he no longer advocates expulsion of all Palestinians, just those he deems traitors or terrorists. That, he adds, should include Jews disloyal to the country. He also champions capital punishment and looser open fire regulations for army soldiers.
מבקשים לעשות הפרדה מוחלטת בין מי שנאמן למדינת ישראל ואין לנו שום בעיה איתו לבין מי שחותר תחת קיומה של המדינה היקרה שלנו.
Political scientist Professor Abraham Diskin is now joining us to discuss the big surprise of these elections. Abraham, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Itamar Ben-Gvir is with no doubt the Cinderella of these elections. So Israelis prioritize a strong security hand over everything?
First of all, I think that, emphasizing the success of Itamar Ben-Gvir really portrays the whole election in a very, very twisted way. Itamar Ben-Gvir is not even the number one on the list on which he was elected. So he just controls half of the seats, the even number of seats, generally speaking, of one of the components, the third largest party in Israel, which was very successful. Altogether, there are 7 seats which were included in his side of that party, and not all of them are called Itamar Ben-Gvir. So, focusing on him really somehow misrepresent what happened in Israel on Tuesday.
In any way, there's a lot of world interest since, around him. You can see it with the press. In his place is actually where he is at. So there's a lot of world interest around him. What didn't happen before?
Well, I think it's very simple to explain that. What really happens is that usually all over the world and also in Israel, the media and also intellectuals tend to be more on the left. So when you try to criticize a right-wing success in elections or right-wing government, you look for someone who can be portrayed as a demon. And I think definitely the choice of Itamar Ben-Gvir is not accidental, but he's just one of a majority of 65 probably altogether in the government. So I really think that talking about him is misleading. That's not the case. One member out of 65, 64 without him, a majority of the 120 seats in the Knesset. It's a waste of time to focus on him. It's a nice symbol. It's a nice thing to discuss him, given the frustration of those who didn't want the right-wing coalition to be elected in the first place. But that's not the issue.
I'll still stay with Ben-Gvir for one more question. Ben-Gvir advocates for expelling those who are anti-Zionist or disloyal, so-called, to the Jewish state, including Jews. But is this even legal? Where would you expel them to? And
I don't think that was said. I don't think that it was said. On the contrary, we have to distinguish. If you insist on speaking on Itamar Ben-Gvir, you have to realize that there is a difference between someone and what he did when he was a teenager, which was very irritating. Let me clear that. I'm very far from being a supporter of Ben-Gvir. Don't have any questions about that. But nevertheless, he never said what you just quoted. What he said, when people in his rallies said all kinds of really very extreme slogans, shouted, kick the Arabs out, death to the Arabs, etc. Once and again, whether he believes it or not, maybe it was a kind of a show that he gave. But once and again, say, I'm not against Arabs. I respect Arabs. They're not different than us. I'm really quoting him in rallies. What I am is against terrorists, and terrorists should be kicked out.
Yes.
That's what he said once and again in his rallies. So I don't know what his intentions are. He was very extreme in the past. He's still a very provocative person, but we have to be accurate about the situation.
Thank you, Abraham, for joining us.
Okay, all the best.
The Palestinian Authority is taking a wait-and-see approach to the Israeli elections. At the Arab Summit, officials blamed Israel's turn to the right on Israeli Arabs' failure to vote in large enough numbers. ILTV's Steve Leibovich reports.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has yet to officially react to the Israeli election results, and a spokesman says he will wait for the final count before commenting. Other Palestinian officials in Ramallah and Gaza had no such restraint.
هذه الانتخابات كما كنا نتوقع الأحزاب الأكثر يمنية وتطرفا والتي تنحو نحو الأكثر تطرفا هي التي تفوز في هذه الانتخابات، وبالتالي نحن ندرك تماما أنه الشارع لدى الاحتلال الأكثر يمنية وتطرفا هو الذي يحكم هذه السياسات بإغلاق الأفق السياسي، باستمرار التصعيد والعدوان والجرائم ضد الشعب الفلسطيني.
أي حكومة مقبلة الكنيست أصبح أكثر يمينية وأكثر تطرفا وعنصرية، وهذا الأمر بالتأكيد سينعكس على كل المنطقة. مطلوب دائما توحيد الموقف الفلسطيني لمواجهة هذا التحدي الكبير من تصاعد اليمين الصهيوني وتفعيل المقاومة الشاملة في كل أرجاء الوطن.
The Arab Summit underway in Algiers declared that the Palestinian cause was still central for them, but they did not address their own differences over the peace with Israel or of the election of a new right-wing government. At the same time, the Secretary-General, Ahmed Abul-Gheit, blamed the Israeli turn to the right on Israeli Arabs' failure to win enough Knesset seats.
أنا كنت أتمنى أنه فلسطيني إسرائيل يشاركوا في انتخابات الأمس وبقوة وينجحهم في الحصول على 15 مقعد لكي يفرضوا على هذا اليمين الإسرائيلي أن يغير من رؤاه. ما حصلش ويجب أن نلوم من كان السبب في عدم مشاركة الفلسطينيين في الانتخابات. ده بكل الوضوح وبكل المصداقية وبكل الأمانة للاقتناع أنه نتحداكم في انتخابات ونحن أغلبية، لكن الزمن معنا.
And in Ankara, President Tayyip Erdogan said he intended to maintain Turkey's relations with Israel based on mutual understanding, no matter the election outcome. The comment came amid a thaw in the long-strained ties between Turkey and Israel.
Daha tabii seçim sonuçları net değil ama seçim sonuçları ne olursa olsun İsrail ile ilişkilerimizi karşılıklı hassasiyetlerimize saygı ve ortak çıkarlarımız temelinde sürdürülebilir bir zeminde yürütmeyi arzu ediyoruz.
3 Israeli border police officers were injured in a stabbing terror attack Thursday morning near the Temple Mount in the Old City of Jerusalem. According to Israel police, the Palestinian suspect, a resident of East Jerusalem, aroused suspicion when he entered the Muslim quarter of the city through the Damascus Gate. And as he was stopped for questioning, he pulled out a knife and lunged at them, stabbing one of the officers in the upper body and moderately wounding him. Other policemen stationed in the area then opened fire on the Palestinian assailant, who was pronounced dead at the scene. But 2 officers hurt in the shootout as well, one from shrapnel. First responders delivering first aid at the scene before transporting the wounded to Shaare Tzedek Medical Center. and the gate to the Temple Mount holy site temporarily closed to secure the area after the attack. Meantime, this incident also coming just hours after another attempted attack on Route 443 at the Bell checkpoint, a Palestinian suspect ramming his van into an IDF officer at the checkpoint before exiting the vehicle and charging his victim with a pickaxe. The injured officer is still managing to shoot the Palestinian assailant, killing him. Now here joining us on the escalating security situation is CEO and founder of the Israel Defense and Security Foundation, Brigadier General Reserves Amir Avivi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So what actually happens to Operation Breakwater and other such anti-terror missions as power is transferred? I mean, especially when the right-wing bloc has been so unimpressed by recent security efforts.
Well, we are seeing a continuous deterioration of the situation in the areas of Judea and Samaria and in Jerusalem. There is a lot of incitement coming from Hamas, from Islamic Jihad, but unfortunately also from the Palestinian Authority that for many years thought that it's better to deal with stones and riots, but not weapons. And we see a change here. And I think that the coming government first mission will be really to stabilize the situation and create an atmosphere that is much more secure for Israelis everywhere.
The right has criticized the current coalition for pretty much everything when it comes to security. Would you agree? Do you think that the current coalition has been too weak, so-called, on terror, etc.?
I think that when you look at the way the army is working, the police, they're doing their job the best they can. But I can tell you that more than a year ago, when this coalition was formed, and basically it was formed by a minority Zionist party that basically gave the keys of the government to the Muslim Brotherhood. And we said in IDSF that doing that will hurt Israel's security dramatically. And they will give a sense that the Jews are basically breaking, their Zionist ideology is breaking, and this is the moment to uprise, this is the moment to fight. And this is exactly what happened. And I think that only a very strong Zionist, united government, and I'm not talking, by the way, only about the right-wing parties. I think that the Jewish people, looking at the huge challenges we're going to face in the coming years, whether it's Iran, whether it's Hezbollah, what's going on in Judea and Samaria, and the breaking process of the Palestinian Authority, and what we see inside Israel, people are not feeling safe. To deal with all these challenges, we really need to unite as a people and show our enemies that we are strong, that we are together. And I think there is an opportunity here. With this new government, maybe finally all this Bibi or not Bibi issue will be put aside, and we can really take care of the serious issues lying ahead for us.
If you were to decide, Amir, what to do, what would you choose to do?
Well, first of all, talking about the inner security of Israel, we need to build a National Guard, at least 30,000 reservists and volunteers. We have helped to bring the first 1,000, but it's not enough. We need a very strong force. We need much more investment in the police and the border patrol. We need to understand that the Palestinian Authority is falling apart, and we need to mobilize many more soldiers to stabilize the situation in Judea and Samaria. We are on the defense, and in some areas we have to be in complete offense, especially in the area of Shechem and Jenin, where pretty much the Palestinian Authority is not really controlling anymore these areas. And also, talking about Iran, we'll have to be decisive in the coming years. We cannot have an Iranian nuclear country. And the clock is ticking. And we don't have a lot of time. We'll have to take care of that.
Thank you, Amir. We're also hoping for more quiet times. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now to a nerve-wracking story, as the military announced on Wednesday that an IDF soldier ended up on Iranian soil last week as her flight from Uzbekistan had to reroute from the United Arab Emirates to the city of Shiraz due to an emergency landing. The soldier, who was visiting her family in Uzbekistan, contacted her family, who called officials in Israel, and was instructed by the Mossad to speak only in Russian. During the plane stay on the ground, which lasted 4 hours, the soldier was not interrogated nor isolated from the other passengers. Israeli citizens are allowed to fly over Iranian territory, but the IDF soldiers are not allowed to do so. Therefore, the story is still under investigation by the IDF, but since it's not a soldier with a security classification, it seems that she will not be prosecuted. More details on this movie-worthy story will be coming for sure. Interesting. Climate change and the environment are major world problems searching for an innovative solution. Startup Nation Central, the Jewish National Fund Israel, and Jewish National Fund Canada joined forces to award the most innovative of Israeli startups. ILTV Lidal Gravelazi with the details.
Held in the Hulda Forest, Climate Solutions Festival engaged over 250 companies and their innovative solutions.
From Israel, that's what we believe can come the solution. This is actually our competition to find a solution for the climate crisis in the Israeli academia. And as I said, we had very strong proposals. Some of them might change the world.
The $2 million in prize money gave financial incentives to startups who can all use the development funds to develop their high-tech inventions.
So this is actually the biggest initiative in Israel today for climate tech. We have around 1,000 participants, about 50 companies representing wonderful technologies from Israel who potentially and hopefully are going to solve global climate challenges.
So Israel is renowned all over the world to be the startup nation, and it's not focusing enough yet on climate change. And we felt with this initiative, we are going to shift the narrative and get all the attention on climate change and resolve this solution with solutions coming out of Israel.
There was a vast array of products being developed with a range of solutions to the most pressing environmental issues.
Not many people know, but the fashion industry is one of the most polluting industries out there. Everything you see here was made on demand. Making fashion on demand is the only way to make fashion better and stop the overproduction and pollution that the fashion industry is responsible for.
What we're doing in Soltrix with our autonomous platform, we conduct all the various tests on site to basically enable the scalability and profitability of solar renewable energy.
We actually produce water from air. We have our devices here, and the reason that we are here because the water situation as we know it is about to shift and change in the near decades, and we're here to suggest an alternative resource. We actually don't use water to produce water because the world as we know it needs a water resource to produce water, and we actually here to produce water from air.
It's part of a push to encourage the development of made-in-Israel solutions to combat climate change and position the country as a global hub for climate tech innovation.
Related to our number of population, we have an impact, but from Israel, that's what we believe can come the solution.
The 9-month journey was a bit long, but very exciting, and we appreciate so much for choosing us, or Merck for choosing us, and for the Innovation Center to organize this entire event. We are very excited. Thank you so much for choosing us.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies expected around the country tonight with lows averaging 13 degrees Celsius or 57 Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow the forecast calling for more clear and sunny skies with top temperatures of 26 Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And finally on Saturday we can expect more of the same with temperatures ranging from mid to high 20s. That's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our website, ILTV.tv, and subscribe to our newsletter as well as our streaming platform, ILTV+. I'm Amit Harari. Have a great weekend, and thank you so much for watching.